Hello students. In today's class we shall be discussing a very interesting topic, and that is quantum mechanical model or wave mechanical model of an atom. But before we go to this very interesting discussion, let us just revise what we have learned in our previous class. In my previous class I had discussed with you people something about the de Broglie's principle. According to de Broglie's principle, any material particle like photon must have both wave as well as particulate nature. De Broglie gave an expression to calculate the wavelength of such material waves. The wavelength of such material waves lambda is expressed as equal to h upon mv. H here is Planck's constant, which means that the wavelength of any material wave is inversely proportional to the mass of that particle. Therefore, for those particles which are massive or those objects which are massive, the wavelengths associated with them are so short that they can't be detected. That's the reason why when you throw a ball, you see it moving like a particle and not as a wave. But for a microscopic particle, a subatomic particle like an electron, where the mass is very small, the wavelength associated with it becomes quite significant. Therefore, electron has a significant wave nature. One another such interesting discussion that we had in our last class was about the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, where he states that it is not possible to determine simultaneously the correct position and velocity of an electron. Suppose if delta x represents the uncertainty in position and delta v represents the uncertainty in its velocity, then the product of the two uncertainties would always be greater than or equal to h by 4 pi m. It would mean that if I try to measure the position of electron with some accuracy, I'll be very uncertain about its velocity. And in a similar way, if I try to be certain about the velocity of an electron, the position is going to become highly uncertain. The implication of this is that we cannot talk about the fixed path of an electron, because fixed path of any body can be determined only by knowing its position and velocity simultaneously. अगर हमें पता हो कि बॉडी इस समय पे किस पोजीशन पे है, किस वेलोसिटी से किस डायरेक्शन में मूव कर रही है, किस तरीके के फोर्सेस उसके ऊपर एक्ट कर रहे हैं, तभी ही हम ये बता पाएंगे कि कुछ समय बाद ये बॉडी किस पोजीशन पे होगी. पर क्योंकि एक इलेक्ट्रॉन के लिए हम उसकी पोजीशन और वेलोसिटी साइमल्टेनियसली डिटरमाइन नहीं कर सकते, हम इलेक्ट्रॉन के किसी फिक्स्ड पाथ को भी डिटरमाइन नहीं कर सकते हैं. दीज वर द टू मेजर प्रिंसिपल्स that were ignored in Bohr's model. And therefore, we need a model that is based upon two very important principles, that is de Broglie's principle and Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. But before we go ahead and discuss that model of an atom, let us try to reinforce the idea that electron has a very significant wave nature associated with it. To reinforce this idea, I'll just discuss one very interesting experiment with you. So let us imagine that we are shooting a beam of particles on a screen. And when we are shooting the beam of particles on a screen, let us say कि हमने बीच में एक ऑब्स्टेकल रखा है और उस ऑब्स्टेकल के अंदर दो नैरो स्लिट्स हैं. अब हमारे पार्टिकल्स दोनों में से किसी एक स्लिट से ही पास कर सकते हैं. एंड देयरफॉर देयर आर ओनली टू पॉसिबल ऑप्शंस जहाँ पे वो जाकर के लैंड करेंगे ऑन द बैक स्क्रीन. और जब ये पार्टिकल्स दोनों में से ईदर ऑफ द टू स्लिट्स में से पास करेंगे, तो जो पैटर्न बनेगा बैक स्क्रीन पे वो आप ऑलरेडी देख पा रहे हैं. तो ये तो बात हुई क्या होगा अगर हम एक बीम ऑफ पार्टिकल्स को शूट करें थ्रू अ डबल स्लिट. बट लेट अस सी व्हाट हैपेंस व्हेन वी आर शूटिंग अ वेव थ्रू अ डबल स्लिट. अब जब एक वेव किसी डबल स्लिट से पास होगी तो वो वेव जो है वो दो छोटी वेव्स में डिवाइड हो जाएगी. After dividing into two smaller waves, the two smaller waves, when they will spread, they'll interact with each other. Means interference होगा. The points where their crests are going to meet each other, constructive interference से intensity बढ़ जाएगी. And the points where the crest of one wave will meet the trough of another, destructive interference होगा और intensities cancel out हो जाएंगी. Now imagine instead of water wave, if it was a light wave, the points where the two light waves would constructively interfere, brightness बढ़ जाएगा. एंड द पॉइंट्स वेयर द टू लाइट वेव्स विल डिस्ट्रक्टिवली इंटरफियर, वहाँ पे डार्कनेस होगा एंड एज अ रिजल्ट आपको स्क्रीन पे एक इंटरफियरेंस पैटर्न मिलेगा जहाँ पे कुछ ब्राइट रीजन्स होंगे जो रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं हाई इंटेंसिटी के पॉइंट्स, और डार्क रीजन्स होंगे जो कि रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं वो एरियाज जहाँ पे इंटेंसिटीज कैंसल आउट हो चुकी हैं। तो अगर एक वेव किसी डबल स्लिट से पास होती है तो वो आपको देता है एक इंटरफियरेंस पैटर्न, जैसा कि आप देख पा रहे हैं अभी अपने स्क्रीन्स पे। तो आपने ये भी देख लिया कि बीम ऑफ पार्टिकल्स क्या पैटर्न प्रोड्यूस करते हैं वाइल पासिंग थ्रू अ डबल स्लिट, और एक वेव क्या पैटर्न प्रोड्यूस करती है व्हेन इट पासेस थ्रू अ डबल स्लिट। Let us now see what happens when we are shooting a beam of electrons through a similar kind of a double slit. ये very interesting, क्योंकि इलेक्ट्रॉन क्या है? इलेक्ट्रॉन टाइनी 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 सब एटॉमिक पार्टिकल है। तो अगर इलेक्ट्रॉन पार्टिकल है तो उसे तो पार्टिकल के जैसा ही पैटर्न प्रोड्यूस करना चाहिए स्क्रीन पे। बट लेट अस सी, हम देखते क्या है, ऑब्जर्वेशन क्या है। When we shoot electrons through a double slit, what we see is really shocking, because what we see here is an interference pattern like a wave. This obviously means that electrons have a very significant wave nature. And the problem is that the physics that we had till then was a classical physics. एक ऐसी फिजिक्स जो कि मैक्रोस्कोपिक बॉडीज के मोशन को तो हमें एक्सप्लेन कर सकती है, पर जहां पे माइक्रोस्कोपिक या सब एटॉमिक पार्टिकल्स की बात है, ये फिजिक्स वेव नेचर को इग्नोर करती है। ये क्लासिकल या न्यूटोनियन फिजिक्स हाइजेनबर्ग्स अनसर्टेनिटी प्रिंसिपल पे बेस्ड नहीं है। पर अगर हमें सब एटॉमिक पार्टिकल्स जैसे कि इलेक्ट्रॉन्स के मोशन को एक्सप्लेन करना हो, then we'll need a physics that incorporates into it both the wave nature as well as the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. And this physics, which includes both of these principles, is quantum or modern physics. And the model of an atom based on quantum physics is what you call as the quantum model or the wave mechanical model. This model is based on the fundamental equation of quantum mechanics, and that equation is called the Schrodinger's wave equation. The equation can be expressed as d square psi by dx square plus d square psi by dy square plus d square psi by dz square plus 8 pi square m by h square e minus v psi is equal to 0. Don't worry, you don't have to solve this equation. But you should know what are the various terms occurring in this equation. So let us understand the various terms in this equation, and to start with, we'll first try to understand what do we mean by the term psi. So psi here is a mathematical function, also called the wave function, and it is the mathematical function for the amplitude of an electron wave. Understand, if you consider the motion of electron around the nucleus as a wave, then d square psi by dx square is a second order differential of the wave function psi with respect to x-axis. In a similar way, again, if you are considering the motion of electron as a wave, wave is going to spread in all the directions. Therefore, d square psi by dy square is going to be the second order differential of the wave function psi with respect to y-axis. M here is the mass of electron, h is the Planck's constant, E is the total energy of electron, and V represents the potential energy of electron. So I hope this is clear that what are the various terms that are occurring in this Schrodinger's wave equation. An interesting thing is that Schrodinger also gave a recipe to convert this differential equation into a mathematical operator. And therefore, the other way to represent the same equation is h cap psi is equal to E psi. Now, h cap, as you see here, is a mathematical operator which is called the Hamiltonian operator. What do you mean by this? A mathematical operator is a simple mathematical operation which, when applied on a function, gives you the value of another function. For example, under root of 4x square. Here, under root is a mathematical operation applied on a function 4x square, and this gives me the value of another function which is 2x. In a similar way, this entire differential equation can be converted into a mathematical operator, and that is what we call as the Hamiltonian operator. As I said earlier, you don't have to solve this equation, but you should know what do you get upon solving this equation. So to understand that what do we get when we solve this equation, let us understand some key features of the wave mechanical model of an atom. While trying to solve or to get solutions of Schrodinger's equation for any system, that may be an atom or a molecule, the solution of this equation gives us the value of two very important functions. One, it gives us the value of wave function psi. And for every value of wave function psi, it gives us the corresponding energy state of an electron. I will again repeat, you are going to get two values as a solution of this equation. The solution of Schrodinger's equation will give you the value of wave function psi, and for every value of psi that you get, because you are going to solve the equation at various points around the nucleus. So you can understand it in this way, that for example, these are the three axes and the nucleus is at the origin over here. Now with respect to x-axis at various points, with respect to y-axis at various points, with respect to z-axis at various points, you are going to solve this equation. And when you are going to solve this equation, you are going to get many values of psi. But for each value of psi, you are also going to get a corresponding value of energy. Okay, now certain values of psi are only acceptable. And since only certain values of psi are acceptable, it means that only certain values of energy are acceptable. That would automatically imply that electron can take only certain energy states within an atom. That is, the value of energy for an electron remains discrete. It can't take any arbitrary values. Why? Because psi can take only certain values. And for every value of psi, we have a corresponding energy state. Now, since there are only certain acceptable values of psi, there are only certain acceptable values of energy of an electron. Thus, the energy of electron takes discrete values, which automatically means that the energy of electron is quantized. The various values of psi, the acceptable values of psi, and the corresponding energy states of an electron can be understood or can be represented or can be expressed by a set of three quantum numbers. These three quantum numbers are actually representing the solutions of Schrodinger's equation. And these three quantum numbers are the principal quantum number n, the azimuthal quantum number L, and the magnetic quantum number ML. What are these quantum numbers? They are the representations of the solutions of the Schrodinger's equation. And we are going to understand more about these quantum numbers in my next session. Before we go there, let us understand what is the significance of the wave function psi. Wave function psi is a mathematical function for the amplitude of an electron wave. And since it's a mathematical function for amplitude of an electron wave, it has no importance with physical existence of an electron. So, the wave function psi has no physical meaning as far as electron is concerned. But just as for any other wave, maybe sound wave, maybe water wave, we know that the square of amplitude of a wave gives us the intensity of the wave at that point. In a similar way, the square of psi, that is psi square, will be the square of the amplitude of an electron wave. And psi square therefore will give us the intensity of an electron wave at a point. Now, the point where the intensity of electron wave is high automatically means is a point where the probability of locating an electron is high. You need to understand this in terms of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. We know that according to the uncertainty principle, we cannot locate an electron. We cannot be certain about the position of an electron. Why? Because there is always uncertainty about the position and the velocity. Until the time we are not certain about position and velocity, we cannot locate an electron within an atom. So we have to talk in terms of probability. Now, where do you think will the probability of locating an electron be high within an atom? Obviously, the probability of finding or locating an electron would be high at a point where the intensity of electron wave is high. So, value of psi square gives you the probability density in terms of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle of locating an electron at a point within an atom. So when you are going to solve, as I told you are going to solve this equation at various points with respect to x, y and z axis in an atom. So there will be certain points where psi is going to take large values. The point where psi will take large values, psi square will have large values. And those are going to be the points where the probability of locating an electron is also going to be very high. But there will be certain points where psi is going to take small values. When psi takes a small value, psi square automatically takes a smaller value. And these are going to be the points where the probability of locating an electron is going to be less. What about a point where psi takes a value 0? If psi takes a value 0, psi square automatically takes value 0. And if psi square is 0, it automatically means that that's a point where there is no probability of locating an electron. Such a region within an atom where the probability of locating electron is 0 is called a node, and we will talk about it a little later. This gives us the concept of what we call as the atomic orbital. Imagine that how will the probability density of electron look like in case of hydrogen atom. So here I have given you the probability density of electron in case of hydrogen atom. You find here that the electron looks very crowded in certain region of space around the nucleus. The electron loves to spend most of its time in a certain region of space around the nucleus. These are those points where psi takes a large value. That is, psi square also takes a large value, and therefore the probability of locating electron in a certain region around the nucleus is very high. But even if you go at a great distance away from the nucleus, if I'm going to have an electron here, means psi is also taking some value here. But obviously the value here is going to be a smaller value because I don't see the probability density very high. The points do not appear very crowded. Means psi is taking a small value, psi square is taking a small value, but yes, there is probability that I can find electron here, but a very low probability. So now if I enclose a certain region of space around the nucleus, as I have done over here with a boundary, wherein you can see the probability of locating electron is very high. I'm enclosing that region of space around the nucleus where the probability of locating electron is as high as 90% because the probability density, as you can see in the picture, is very high. Such a region of space around the nucleus where the probability of locating an electron is as high as 90% is what we mean by an orbital. At this point, we have to be very clear with what is the difference in between orbit and orbital. Let us look at them one by one. When you talk about an orbit represents a planar motion. It's a circular path around the nucleus. So let us talk about orbital. What is orbital? Now orbital talks about a certain region of space around the nucleus, and that obviously means that when I am talking about an orbital, I am talking about 3 dimensions. So orbital is actually representing a 3-dimensional motion of electron around the nucleus, not like an orbit which represents only a planar motion of electron around the nucleus. The second thing, we know that orbits are always circular around the nucleus. They are circular in shape. But we'll talk about orbitals a little later. They are of different shapes. Orbitals may be spherical, they may be dumbbell shaped, and we'll look at various other shapes of orbitals in my next class. We know that orbit is a well defined path, as stated in Bohr's model, that orbit is a well defined path of fixed radius and energy allowed within an atom. But is orbital a fixed path? No. Orbital is simply a region around the nucleus where the probability of locating an electron is very high. You don't exactly know where the electron is. So it is no well defined path around the nucleus. The next thing, the orbit theory is not according to the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle because it is talking about the fixed path of an electron. But orbital, this concept is in accordance with the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle because it only talks about the probability. There is no certainty that you are going to get an electron over there. Next thing, we have studied in our earlier classes that the number of electrons in a given shell is always 2n square. So here the power is 2. You cancel this out. So how many electrons can be occupied in a given shell, and how are you representing these orbits? So in your earlier classes you have represented these orbits with letters like K, L, M, and so on. And how many electrons can be occupied in a given shell? So you know that a given shell can occupy 2n square. Now what about an orbital? An orbital can occupy only 2 electrons. Why? I'll let you know in my next class. Okay, and just as you are representing the shells around the nucleus with letters like K, L, M, and so on, these orbitals are supposed to be represented by letters like S, P, D, and F. So here are some points of differences in between orbit and orbital. Next time when we meet, we are going to be discussing the 3 quantum numbers which are actually the solutions of the Schrodinger's equation, and they have the entire detail of the energy states and the wave function psi. And we'll also try to look at the shapes of different orbitals in my next class. Goodbye till then.